Hi Marissa, I'm Taylor. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too.
Why don't we start with telling me a little bit about why you're here today and what's on your mind?
Well, this is not my first counseling session, so I've kind of been in this position before. But when I was 17, I was diagnosed with OCD.
Okay, and so your obsessive compulsive disorder is what brought you in today?
Yes, I've been feeling a little bit more stressed lately with school, and it's just really bringing out my symptoms more, I guess.
Okay, and so you're feeling like the stress you've been under lately with school is really causing your OCD to trigger.
Yeah, I'm in grad school right now at Rush for nursing, and it's just so much more than I actually expected. I mean, I knew it would be hard work, but it has just been so overwhelming this year that I find myself going back to doing the rituals and compulsions I always used to do.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough course though to take on. So there was a time since your diagnosis where the compulsions were occurring less?
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I used to always do things repeatedly. My biggest thing was probably counting. Like I would stare at a wallpaper pattern and just feel the urge to count the squares back and forth a certain amount of times. You know, whatever felt right. And as it got worse and worse, my mom started to notice that something was up. And that's why I went into counseling in the first place. After a while, they said I had OCD and referred me to someone else who had a little bit more experience with working on psychotherapy, but that didn't help much. After that counselor, I moved on to a different counselor, and the type of stuff we did seemed to be helping. I don't know if it was the counseling or just being under less stress and pressure in my life at that time, but I stopped doing all my rituals for the most part. I still had some thoughts too, but I was able to control them more.
So you dealt with these issues for some time, and it sounds like you reached a point where you had almost moved past it, but now you're experiencing some of those struggles again?
Yeah, and with all the stress I'm under and the things I need to do, it's getting in the way of things, and I'm just really hoping to find that balance that I had before.
Okay, so we've just covered a lot. We've talked about your past experience with OCD and counseling and a little bit about what's worked and what hasn't. And what I'm hearing is that the main thing you're hoping to get out of this is a way to cope with the compulsions that you find yourself doing.
Yes, I really want to gain control over them.
I hear you. Let's talk more about the rituals. You mentioned counting patterns. Is counting the only way that you cope?
No, I sometimes use other ones too. When I say I have OCD, people always assume that I'm a germ freak, and I don't really think I am, but I do wash my hands excessively. I don't really do it from fear of germs, but I do it when my hands feel dirty or sticky. So I usually wash them 3 times if I start to feel that way. Anything less doesn't seem to work enough.
And when you go through some of these rituals like counting or washing your hands, do you feel relief from your anxiety?
I do, but only for a brief minute. It's like I need to do it, but it doesn't do much for me. I just wish I could stop.
So we established earlier what you're hoping to get out of this counseling, and that's to stop partaking in these rituals. Would you say that's your ultimate goal?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. It's important for us to have a goal in this relationship. Let's talk about some of the ways we can reach that goal together. I don't want to get too much into your thoughts and anxieties that trigger your behaviors just yet, but what I'd like to discuss about them is trying to stop the thought as it occurs. So for example, when you're waking up in the morning and you start to feel like some of your anxiety, and your first reaction is usually to start doing some of these coping rituals that you do. Instead, I want you to say aloud, stop. If you need to say it more than once, then you can do so. This should serve as a reminder that the thoughts you're having are going to cause you to act in some kind of negative way.
But what if it doesn't work?
If the thought isn't stopped, that's okay. This isn't going to work 100% of the time, but just saying stop out loud can get you to start thinking about acting in a different way, and that's a good start.
Okay, I could definitely try that.
And just trying is going to be enough for right now. We're just getting started. Let's get back to where the compulsions begin. You mentioned earlier the word stress. So you're feeling stressed, and then you act on your compulsions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wake up right away feeling the need to wash my hands or start counting patterns. It usually happens during certain situations.
Okay, so take a minute and think about a recent time when you were just itching to wash your hands, or you found yourself obsessing over some pattern that you needed to count.
Okay, I can think of last Monday.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about what happened last Monday.
I can't remember exactly how the day started, but my anxiety kind of started when I was driving to school. It's like a 45-minute commute, and the rain was really bad, so naturally I was just getting a little anxious. Then once I got to school, I sat down in class, and everyone was talking about their papers. and I immediately thought, oh my god, I totally forgot the paper was due that day. So I'm sitting there trying to think of what I should do. Should I leave and send an email with an excuse? Or stay and make an excuse? Or just not turn it in? Basically, I was freaking out. But I ended up just deciding to email it to the teacher later, so whatever. You're probably going to think this sounds weird, but then I started eating some snacks. And as I kept eating, my hands started to feel so dirty and so gross. So I was just sitting there like, okay, I need to go to the bathroom and wash my hands. This particular professor always says how people shouldn't be entering or leaving class during lecture. And I'm the type of person where I really follow the rules, you know? So I didn't want to make the teacher mad or make her call me out or anything. But because I was so focused on washing my hands, I honestly didn't pay attention to lecture at all. I got nothing out of it, and immediately after class, I just raced to the bathroom.
That's intense. So the day began with a little bit of worry as you drove in the weather, and then it got worse when you realized that you forgot the paper was due.
Yes, definitely.
And if you had to rate on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being slightly worried and 10 being about to have an anxiety attack, how would you say you felt when lecture was about to begin?
Probably about a 6.
Okay, so you're at a 6, and then your thoughts about your hands feeling dirty start to occur and get in the way of your attention span on lecture. Do you think if you'd been at a 0 or a 1 as opposed to a 6 on the scale that you would have started to think about the cleanliness of your hands?
I think I would have been uncomfortable with how my hands felt and wanted to just wash them, but I would have been able to ignore it and focus on lecture.
Okay, that's a great reflection. So the more anxiety that you're experiencing, the more you want to partake in these rituals and compulsions. That's not uncommon whatsoever. I want to keep our focus on your compulsion, but it's important to understand what triggers these compulsions. I think a good way for you to try and pull back from these compulsions could be through some relaxation exercises.
Okay.
Let's try something right now. Take a deep breath and feel the air from your abdomen to your chest. Breathe the air out slowly, trying to get the abdomen towards your spine until all the air is gone. How did that feel?
That actually felt good.
Good. Normally this exercise would be done about 6 to 10 times, but it's surprising how even doing it once or twice can really bring your anxiety down. This is a good idea for you to do when you feel stressed. This means that this would come before all your feelings about stress in doing your compulsions. So for example, last Monday, when you found out that your paper was due and you hadn't done it, it may have been helpful for you to do some of these, take some of these deep breaths. By lowering your anxiety, I think we can lower the urge to give into your compulsions, since that seems to be a big factor.
Yeah, I agree. I'm willing to try, and that's why I'm here. I'm up and open to do whatever.
I'm glad to hear that. And since you've had a lot of experience with counseling in the past, if there's something that you tried and you didn't like, or something that you did try and you did like, please feel free to let me know and we can work around it. The same goes for things that you tried and you did like.
Okay, I will.
I think we've covered a lot today, and I'm happy with how it went. I think I have a really good understanding of your goals and some of the issues that you're experiencing. I've already mentioned a couple techniques that you should use and that can assist you in reaching some of those goals, like trying to stop the thought as it occurs and the relaxation breathing. I want to introduce one more idea to you before we leave today's session.
Okay.
This process is going to take some time, so I don't want you to throw too much all at you at once. But what I'd like you to really do is practice some of the breathing exercises, because next week we're going to really bring some of your anxieties into light. And while we do so, we're going to practice the breathing and other relaxation exercises.
Okay, that sounds like a little something I did with one of my counselors before.
Okay, tell me more about what you guys worked on.
Well, it was a while ago. She would either put a pattern in front of me or make me sit with my hands feeling dirty from something and I wasn't supposed to count or wash my hands. We would spend some time doing that, and then she would make me do some relaxation exercises, kind of like the breathing one you just showed me.
Okay, and how long did you do this for?
We worked on it a little bit more every session.
Okay, and did you feel like it worked for you?
Yeah, I think so. It was definitely uncomfortable for me at first, and I didn't always like being forced to sit through those anxious feelings, but it seemed to always be helpful in the end.
I think this will be a great place for us to start and pick up at next week. We can take it slowly and we'll get a feeling of how it's working for you this time around.
Okay, I think that sounds good.
Do you have any questions for me about anything at all before we close today's session?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay, well, if you think of anything at all, please, for next time, please let me know. I think we made a great progress in such a short amount of time today, and I appreciate everything you've shared. I'm looking forward to meeting next week.
That's great, thank you. I'll
That's-
work on the things you showed me today.
It's great. I'll see you next week, Marissa.
Thanks.